Hey racers, and welcome back to another live stream. And in today's live stream, I'm going to be tackling what is the best workout that you can do to improve your motocross fitness. So the whole point of doing this video, and I guess the point of wanting to find out what the best workout is for all of us, whether you're a factory racer, whether you're a privateer, whether you're someone who just rides and races for fun, and everyone in between. We all have a limited amount of time, okay? And within that, a limited amount of time that you can dedicate to training. So the most important thing with your training is making sure that you're actually doing the right stuff with the limited time that you've got, not wasting it doing shit that's not actually helping or not improving your riding. So first I want to share a bit of a story. When I was racing, so I raced 14 years of motocross and did all the state rounds, we did all the nationals, especially as a junior. We did a lot of traveling and a lot of racing. And those 14 seasons was 14 seasons of racing. Okay, there was no breaks, there was no time off, there was no miss a season, nothing like that. It was race, getting on the bike every single weekend. And because I loved it, that's what I enjoyed doing. And so over that period of time, I did a lot of different types of training specifically to build fitness for racing. Okay, I cut away a lot of other sports. Like I used to play football, I played hockey, I played cricket. I cut away all of those sports because the racing was the dominant thing that I wanted to be good at and that I wanted to improve with. Nothing else really mattered. So I did a whole heap of different training and different types of fitness along the way. Some of the things that I tried. So for about 5 years there, I did club level swimming. So I was training and doing swimming with all of these club level swimmers that were competing and doing swimming comps. And I wasn't doing swimming comps. I was just training with them because I wanted to get fit. I thought that would be a good way to build my cardio, build my conditioning for out on the bike. So I did that. We used to go train 3 or 4 times a week for an hour and a half. There was a period of time there. We had one of our coaches, his name was Will. And I actually saw him on the TV at the last Olympics. I was watching the Olympics for the swimming. Ended up coaching one of the girls that when he competed in the Olympics. And he had us training pretty bloody hard. We'd do like an hour and a half of swimming, plus then he'd tell us to get there. When he started coaching, he'd get us to get there early and we'd do this body weight stuff and go for runs and pretty crazy sessions that we'd do. So did a heap of training during that time. Other periods of time, I've done weight training at home. So I had a barbell and I used to do different types of curls. So my dad got me doing these exercises where I'd have the bar in front of me. It was like a reverse curl with the barbell moving up and down. So trying to mimic as best I could what was happening out on the bike when I was riding, right? Trying to replicate hand position and rough movements of what's happening. So I did that for a bit. Majority of the time was lighter weights with higher reps. I did spin classes at the gym when I got a bit older and I was allowed to go to the gym. So I went and did spin classes 3 or 4 times a week. The RPM sessions, so they last for, I don't know how long they were, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And then I'd do those. And one of the problems I was having at that time, I remember, I was getting really sore legs, specifically my VMO, which is if you look at your knee, it's that teardrop muscle that's on the inside of your knee. If it's developed, you'll know it's there. If it's not developed, then you probably won't be able to see it. But that was the muscle that was hurting. So I was like, okay, and I was talking with my dad, and Dad was like, okay, well, you've got to do some leg strengthening exercise. You've got to work those muscles in the gym to be able to fix the problem. So I'd go and do the RPM session, which was smashing the shit out of your legs for 45 minutes or an hour. And then I'd jump on the leg extension machine. And I'd do 3 or 4 sets of 10. And every week I'd just crank the weight up and go and isolate and work on the problem area, which was my legs at that point in time. So I did that. I did a lot of cycling, not official cycling. Like I didn't have the Leica and a cycling bike and all that, but I could get my mountain bike, I'd get my push bike. Hey, Darren. And I'd go and do laps around. There was like our suburb and there was another suburb, and I'd go and do a ride, which might be 20 minutes, half hour. Sometimes I'd do longer rides. I did hill sprints. We used to live on top of a hill or near the top of a hill. And so what I'd do is I got my BMX bike and I'd ride to the bottom, and then mountain bike, BMX bike, whatever I was riding at the time. Go to the bottom, rest at the bottom, come back up and repeat that 3, 4, 5 times. It was a decent sized hill. What else have I done? Did body weight training and things like that. Like I'd knock out push-ups in the morning. Like this was when I was younger, before school. Hey, Hayden. I'd do push-ups in the morning. I was accumulating, I don't know, I'd do like 3 sets of 20 push-ups or something like that. Whatever I was doing at the time. So body weight training. So I've done body weight training, I've done weight training, I've done a whole heap of cardio through swimming, through cycling. Running I did a bit, more so through school, like working towards cross country and doing things like that. I did CrossFit training towards the end of my riding and racing. I did personal training actually. I had a sponsor who was I was sponsored by a chiropractor. And so the chiropractor, I'd get complimentary, I'd get treatment. And he was friends with this person or people that owned a personal training studio or gym. And they were doing this 8-week program or 12-week program. So he ended up paying for me to go and do this 8-week, 12-week program. So I went there a couple of times a week. I think we used to go to the gym and we used to do curls and isolation work. And then we used to go down to the beach because it wasn't too far from the beach. And we'd do these long runs on a Saturday morning. We'd go and run down the beach and do sprints or intervals or long runs and things like that. And that there's probably other things that I haven't included in there. Like I played football at periods of time. So I was doing football training and working on that. I played cricket for about 5 years. There's all like, hand-eye coordination, all that sort of stuff as part of doing cricket and cricket skills. Trying to think if there was anything else that I've done that I've missed out. There probably is. But I've done a heap of fitness work. Okay, a heap of training over the years. A lot of training, and lots of different types of stuff. And the thing is, you would think with doing all of that stuff, you would think, okay, well, Andrew, you must be pretty fit, right? You would have to have been pretty fit doing all of that work and doing all that training and being so active. But the thing is, I still wasn't able to go and race at, say, like Coastal Motocross track, which is a sand track, and put in a 15-minute moto at race pace. That would still be an issue for me. And like we went over to Coolum for the Nationals. We went over there 2 years because I had the Junior Nationals there twice. And with all of that training, all of that work and everything that I did, I still couldn't go to Coolum Nationals and put in a 15-minute plus 1 lap moto at race pace. I was going there riding with the best of the best, had the speed, had the skills there to be able to ride with the best of the best. But the problem was I just couldn't hold that pace for a full race. And truthfully, it was after the first couple of laps. Like I was struggling to hold 2 laps at race pace. I just didn't have the energy. I was fatiguing really quickly. I was still sore and beat up from the previous days. I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm doing all of this work, putting all of this time, all of this effort into riding and racing. I've cut away all of these other sports. I didn't go to kids' birthday parties and do all that sort of stuff. I was just focusing on racing and still not getting the results I was after, which you can imagine is frustrating as shit. And maybe you guys are experiencing the same thing. It's like where you go and train and you put the work in and put the effort in and feel like your racing's not moving forward. So like when I look at that story is the biggest thing or the biggest takeaway from that is I just didn't know what I was doing, right? At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. As much as I hate to say that at the time, because I was putting all of that work in, and I probably didn't want to admit that to myself, is I just had no idea what I was doing. I was going, okay, I get sore legs, I'll do some leg exercises. Oh yeah, I'm doing swimming for an hour and a half. Surely it must be an hour and a half of cardio work must be good for riding. And as much as my dad wanted to be able to help me and support me, he didn't have any idea either. Okay, he just did things that he was doing when he was younger, when he was riding. And he's trying to pass that on to me, but he didn't have any idea. I didn't have any idea. I'm just doing things. I'm just trying to move to be able to get things happening on the bike, which didn't happen. It wasn't until I went into later on when towards the end of racing, I started doing these fitness competitions. And so I started doing these fitness competitions. Hey, Edmund. And what I found out through doing these competitions, that there was all these different types of ways of training that we were doing to improve our fitness that went against a lot of the beliefs that I had before. And so some of these beliefs that I share with you are things like, oh, you're going to get big if you lift weights, or you're going to get arm pump if you lift weights, or your races are 15 minutes, so go and do half an hour of cardio. So that will make the 15 minutes feel easy. And so all of those things, I ended up uncovering unintentionally that they were just a load of bullshit and they were crap. They had no substance behind them. And so I was doing these fitness competitions and all of these things were absolutely blowing my mind. There was these bigger guys that I was like, oh yeah, I'll smoke you guys in the cardio. Look at these big buff guys, right, that lift heaps of weight. You guys are going to be really slow. But then they'd hose me in the cardio as well. And I was like, how is this happening? Why is this happening? And so that's what led me into strength and conditioning and actually learning how the body works and how to get an athlete or a person performing at their absolute best. Whereas before, what I was doing is just throwing shit at the wall, right? I was just doing a whole heap of stuff, hoping that it was going to work. So I guess the analogy I have for today, I was just looking at my notes here because there was an analogy I wanted to share. For those of you who were on the show I did with Neil Price the other night, I used this analogy, but I'll share it for you guys anyway. Is everyone only has a certain amount of time to train, right? Whether you're a factory racer or just a day-to-day, you have your normal job and you enjoy training, enjoy performing on the bike. Everyone only has a limited amount of time to train. Okay, it might be 3 hours a week, 3 1-hour blocks a week, might be 4 1-hour blocks, 5 1-hour blocks, or 1.5-hour blocks. Everyone's got a rough limit that they have. Now, I want you to think about that time. First of all, I want you to think about your training and your time like a bank account. So let's say that you've got 10 grand in cash sitting in your bank, okay, and you're going to invest this 10 grand. And you've got 3 different banks. And you go to 3 different banks. Now, you've got your 10 grand there, cash that you're going to invest in the bank and put it in a term deposit. You go to 3 different banks. Bank 1 gives you an interest rate of 2%. Okay, that's their rate. Bank 1 gives you a rate of 2%. Bank 2 gives you a return of 5%. And Bank 3 gives you a return of 10%. Now, all things being equal, which one are you going to pick? Obviously, the one with the higher interest rate, the 10% one, right? Why would you pick the 10% one? Because that's when you're going to get the best rate of return from the 10 grand that you put into the bank. You could invest it into the 2% account and still get 2% back, but you're just missing out on 8%. Okay? So your training time is exactly the same. You might have 3 1-hour blocks of training 3 1-hour slots that you put aside to training every week. That's great. You've got 3 hours there. You can invest that 3 hours into a whole heap of different exercises. Like there's a million different types of training that I've done. You can put your 3 hours into all of those different types of training like I have, okay, or any of those different types of training. But the thing is, some types of training are going to give you a better return than others. Some exercises are going to give you a 2% return. Some exercises are going to give you a 5% return. And some exercises are going to give you a 10% return, okay, or more, 40%, 50%, 80% return on your time. But it's up to you to make sure that you're picking the right exercises to be able to get the return, okay? So when we're talking about that 10% bank account, okay, or 40 or 50%, the top interest bank account that you have for your training in terms of where you should spend your time, and to answer the question of this video, which is what is the best workout, is it's a combination between 2 things, getting strong and building your cardio and conditioning, okay? It's a mixture of those 2 things. They are the soul, they're the big pieces, they're the meat and potatoes of your training. That's where your time needs to be spent. The reason that needs to happen is the strength side. The stronger you can get yourself, the lighter the bike will feel. The lighter you can get the bike to feel, the less energy you'll use and the less you'll fatigue on the bike. If you can use less energy and fatigue less on the bike, you can ride harder for longer periods of time. So it comes down to making sure you're using the right strength exercises, using multi-joint movements, not using isolation work. That's a whole nother video. The other side is the cardio and conditioning. It's making sure that the second half of your workouts is made up of developing your anaerobic energy system or aerobic energy system. My recommendation is focus on anaerobic energy system, leave the aerobic training for the bike. Okay, go practice your motos on the bike with the longer stuff and build your aerobic system that way. The best way to build your anaerobic energy system is using interval training, short, sharp bursts of high intensity training. So jump on a rowing machine, do a minute on, hard, flat out, a minute off, rest. Repeat that 10 times. Okay, it'll take you 20 minutes to do. So that should be the meat and potatoes of your training. You should be focusing a large part on strength and then a large part on conditioning. And both of those 2 work together. If you're using the right systems, as I've said there, okay, and you're doing the right exercises and the right training, those 2 work perfectly together. You can do them both on the same day and they're both going to help and complement each other. Okay, you don't need separate days for separate exercises or arm day and leg day and cardio day and things like that. Okay, we need everything congruent and working together. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is making sure you're putting your time into the areas that are going to give you the best return for your time, okay? There's unlimited exercises, unlimited training, unlimited methods of fitness that you can use, but that doesn't matter. What you need to do is cut all the bullshit away and go, what are the top things I can do that are going to allow me to get the best results and best improvement from the time I spend training? So to summarize for today, okay, the best motocross workout, okay, first of all, you need to find out, okay, I've got a certain amount of time each week to dedicate to fitness. What are the exercises? What are the areas I need to invest that time in to get the best return back and get the best amount of progress? There are things that I can do that give me a 2%, a 10%, a 20%, a 50%, an 80% return. What are those highest return activities? Do more of those. What are the lowest return activities? Get rid of those and replace them with higher return activities. That's the metaphor that I used. Okay, don't make the same mistake that I made for 14 years of racing of just throwing shit at the wall, doing a whole heap of random stuff, and go, hey, hopefully this stuff's got to work. Like I'm doing an hour of swimming, surely that's got to work. I'm doing an RPM session, surely that's got to work. I'm doing push-ups and weights in the morning that mimic the bike, surely that's got to work. Okay, get rid of the guesswork and start putting some thought into how you approach your fitness work. And when you do that, that's when you'll start to see the results on the bike. And I'm not talking little results that you have to, like, search around for and go, oh, am I really improving? But you're not really improving. You're just telling yourself that because you feel bad because you've done so much work and you haven't really improved. Like I'm talking night and day difference. Like you can do 10-minute motos now at race pace, and in 3 months' time, you're doing half-hour motos at race pace, okay? Or in 8 weeks' time, or in 4 weeks' time, or whatever, wherever you're at. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like. If you would like some help with your training, and you want to, hey Ben, you want to make sure that you have a specific approach to your training. You want to make sure that you've got the best return exercises in your training and get rid of all the low performing stuff that's just wasting your time. Please send me a private message. Let me know what you're working towards. Okay, if it's extreme enduro, what are you working towards? If it's motocross, what are you working towards? If it's normal enduro or road racing or anything else that you're working towards, let me know what you're working towards. Let me know what you're having challenges with. Give me an idea of what you're doing training-wise. Send me a private message, and then we can have a chat. We'll go backwards and forwards a little bit. If I can help, great. If I can't, I should at least be able to point you in the right direction or point you to a piece of my content that can help. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed the video. See you guys soon. See ya.